Digital PR is everything. LLMs take from the corpus of the web, not just your website. So what's being said about you across the web is kind of everything now. You have to get really crystal clear on what you are and make sure that that is being repeated everywhere, so that when a user goes looking for a solution to a problem in that category, hopefully you show up. The buyer's journeys are just super complex, and a funnel doesn't exist anymore. If it ever did, maybe not. So getting hung up on attribution is kind of like a waste of time. Google and the LLMs care less and less about your website itself, and they care more about how you're being spoken about and who's speaking about you across the entire corpus of the web. So we're not limited by the data, we're just limited by our creativity. I think we're all feeling the AI fatigue, but I think we have to keep up. You have to stay on the bleeding edge. You have to tinkering and playing and be curious, because if you lose that curiosity and that willingness to tinker, I think you very quickly will fall behind.
In the finance industry, which is where Swoop is, you guys must be doing a lot of offsite authority building, digital PR. What's the main strategy for how you're signaling to the algorithms and to the users that your brand can be trusted?
Yeah, I mean, in this kind of LLM era that we're in, there's just no way around it. You have to be doing digital PR, because it's kind of gone up a level in abstraction. There's sort of LLMs and Google soon, when AI mode becomes default. They don't really care so much about your website by itself. You can say whatever you want on your website, but if that's not being echoed across the web, then it doesn't really matter what you say. So, yeah, digital PR is everything. And I don't know if you've seen that Gartner report that said digital PR budgets, I think, are going to double in the next 12 or 18 months. Yeah, Gartner have got some things right, some things wrong in the past, but I do think they're on the money with this one for sure. Because, LLMs take from the corpus of the web, not just your website. So what's being said about you across the web is kind of everything now.
Yeah, 100%. And the more focus that you can get around a specific POV or specific point of view, I mean, I think that's where digital PR can really help the brand and not only enhance kind of the entity, whether it's lending or other sort of loans or financial products, but it can also help how you're different from other competitors. And a good PR strategy is going to help with that. So how do you do that as a UK company scaling into the US market? Is digital PR a big part of that strategy?
I think in the early days, we are in the early days. No, I don't think that. You've probably got to get a few ducks in a row before you start thinking about digital PR. I think firstly, you've got to be really clear about what category you're in and make sure that that's being replicated across the web. There's no point one website talking about you as a lending platform and another talking about you as a broker and another talking about you as a marketplace and another one talking about you as a funding platform. You have to get really crystal clear on what you are and make sure that that is being repeated everywhere, so that when a user goes looking for a solution to a problem in that category, hopefully you show up. So getting clear and consistent on what category you're actually in is probably the first thing. And then, just using digital PR to amplify that.
Yeah, the clarity, I mean, I was just at SEO week in New York, and all the sponsors for the event, there was Ahrefs, which is traditionally an SEO tracking platform. Now they're moving into Agent A, which is all agentic and focused on LLMs. There was a couple other providers, AirOps, Profound, Peak, Scrunch, and it all seems like they're trying to do the same thing, tracking LLMs, tracking sentiment, and reverse engineering what users are looking for. One of Scrunch in specific, they're kind of taking your website as a whole and they are scrunching it into an LLM.txt file. So I'm curious if what are the core things that you're thinking about in terms of brand marketing that you would want to scrunch down and put on one page?
That's a really good question. I guess, being really crystal clear about your category. So making sure that's sort of front and center. I guess all your categories, all your products, making sure that they're really clear. And I definitely think sticking to a few categories makes sense. I know we've been guilty of it in the past, where you try and do everything at once. You try and be everything to everyone. And kind of everything just gets diluted. So I think sticking to maybe one or two product lines or revenue streams or whatever it looks like in your business, and really sticking with those to start with. Because we've certainly found that if we try and be everything to everyone and offer every ancillary product, it kind of just dilutes your value and who you are and what you stand for and what you actually do. So yeah, being
Mm,
crystal clear, I think, on where you stand and who you actually stand for would help.
mm. That's huge. Okay, who you actually stand for. I mean, search marketing in general is, I call it like psychology wrapped in tech, basically.
I
We
like
have to
that. I
really
like that.
understand humans, like, and now the buyer's journey is just all over the place. Do you see a pattern, or let me ask a maybe a more simple question? What metrics are you tracking across your domain? Let's just call it search marketing. Can span from Google to LLMs to Giphy, even like the GIF creator I heard was like a search marketplace.
Wow.
What metrics are you tracking that make a difference these days?
I mean, talking about Giphy, we've actually tested Pinterest in B2B finance just to see what's
Nice.
there. Like,
Yeah.
is there any appetite for business funding sort of answers on Pinterest? And we put together
Interesting.
some like equations, visuals to equations,
Mm.
to
Mhm.
sort of supplement a calculator. How did we come to this number, and put it there in a visual on Pinterest? And there was a little bit. So it's interesting that people are talking
Hmm.
about these
Yeah.
platforms that kind of don't get spoken about
Yeah.
enough, I think, in some cases. So what metrics are we thinking about beyond traditional search metrics? Well, I mean, I've moved into a demand gen role, so I'm certainly thinking about revenue. I mean, I always was, but way more than I ever was. So
Mm.
yeah, revenue per deal, deal volume, sales velocity is something that's kind of relatively new to me. It's not something that I ever really took partial ownership of before. So how quickly you can get cash back into the business to then recycle it and do more marketing. So a campaign that might sort of have maybe 3x ROI over 12 months, you may be better off spent doing a campaign that gives you a 1.5x return over 3 months. So the return's not as good, but you get it back into the business much faster. So
Mm.
it's thinking about, return in a different way, not just the amount of return, but how quickly it comes back to you, something that's relatively new to me, I think. So yeah, certainly much more than just search metrics these days.
Mhm. Yeah, that was a big, it's a big trend that we're hearing is that SEOs are positioned very well because, again, back to the psychology thing, we can influence what the social media team is, their content calendar. We can influence the email marketing because we understand like the volume of what's being searched and where the user journey is kind of happening. How do you collaborate? How do you collaborate across teams at the company, or is that not something that you're quite handling?
No, definitely. I think I am, and I think it's a bit of a shift towards becoming a revenue marketing
Yeah,
function as opposed to just a
definitely.
marketing function. So many teams are so guilty, and understandably, of washing their hands of the task once the qualified lead is passed over.
Hmm.
And I think that works to a degree, but if everyone's not swimming in the same lane, if everyone's not thinking about revenue, then you're kind of swimming in different directions. So blended revenue is kind of how we measure across things like social, search, AI platforms, email. We don't really care as much where the revenue comes from. And obviously we do think about it, but ultimately we have a revenue goal and we don't really care how we
Mm.
get there because, like you said, the buyer's journeys are just super complex and a funnel doesn't exist anymore. If it ever did,
Yeah.
maybe not. So getting hung up on attribution is kind of like a waste of time. You might as well just set a revenue goal and find ways to collaborate to get there and not get too
Hmm.
bogged down on how you got there.
Which that can get a bit spicy when it comes to like budget allocation for different departments. You know.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. You do obviously have to do that. You have to do that channel by channel analysis, but everyone has to be thinking
Yeah.
in the same way because if there's no revenue, there's no company or sometimes. So
Hmm.
yeah, getting everyone on board and thinking like revenue marketers, and because so many marketers I've worked with in the past are so guilty of just operating with their blinders on, thinking
Hmm.
about those search metrics and not really thinking about the bigger picture. I think we've all been guilty of it at some point for sure.
Yeah.
And so as attributions got harder and you educate internal stakeholders about the importance of not getting hung up on revenue per channel, blended revenue becomes the only way forward, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, speaking of how people are thinking and interacting and engaging, and as a team, not only as a department team, but company wide. You've worked at bigger companies. I mean, you've worked at, global corporate brands, and you've also worked at startups, scale ups. What's something that you've seen that is like kind of like a core fundamental principle that can shift from startup all the way to a global company in terms of search marketing? And what are things that absolutely don't transfer?
Thing about buy-in, you've always got to get buy-in. There's always some internal selling needed, whether
Love that.
you're the first marketing hire or there's a massive marketing function across 150 countries.
Mm,
There will always be an element of internal sales and selling in the idea, educating. Again, there's always an education piece. I think understandably, lots of staff view search marketing as a bit of a black box. So it's our job not only to make that a meaningful channel or revenue driver, but you have to be educating them on how you actually got there as well. So education and buy-in, it transcends all businesses of all sizes.
What I would guess that the people listening to this podcast are more likely than not, are not working at a Volkswagen, let's say.
Right.
They're
Yeah.
more likely working at, let's say like a SMB, either an agency or a relatively mid-sized brand. So I'm curious what they might be doing at some of these smaller brands that maybe wouldn't fly at a global organization.
You have the luxury being at a smaller company of being able to react and be agile. Like marketing has changed forever and will continue to evolve like at the most rapid pace over the coming months and years. And being at a corporate, it's so hard to react to those changes that are just so rapid.
Mhm.
Being at those younger companies and being able to have the agency and the autonomy to make fast decisions and react and have sometimes the capacity to be proactive.
Mm.
They're luxuries that you just don't get at big companies that are just so slow moving, that are caught up in bureaucracy and legal blocks everything.
Mm.
Anyone at a big company will be able to relate. Yeah, the ability to react and be agile certainly doesn't.
I want to loop some of the things you said earlier in the conversation with this response. You just mentioned legal, and it's top of mind for me because we're talking cross-functional and putting the business needs ahead of the department needs, essentially, if we're all swimming in the same lane trying to generate revenue. And you have issues from other departments, let's say legal. Do you have a process getting buy-in? Like, how do you go to other departments and say, hey, how can I use your concerns to actually further my own strategy that can then turn into revenue for the company? I mean, is there any I don't know, any examples or something that's top of mind for you where you involved other departments into your strategy?
Yeah, so I think if you've baked in education from day one and you're not shy of sharing wins and sharing processes, I guess, of what you're doing and how you're doing it internally, I think naturally teams like customer success or legal or sales or whatever it might be will naturally have a better understanding of what you're doing and how it
Mm,
impacts their roles. So when you come to someone like sales and you want to do some sales calls, listen into some sales calls or get some transcriptions of particular sales calls, they'll understand why. And I think
mm,
they'll be able to tie back them spending the time, taking them away from their day to day. And if they take the time to help you, they'll be able to tie that back to something that materially impacts them. In the case of sales, it will potentially get them more sales and more commissions. So yeah, having the proactiveness to educate from day one, I think helps
mm,
immeasurably.
mm. Yeah, taking those sales calls in order to create content that will hopefully find the buyer wherever they're at and pull them into another sales call. I mean,
Yeah.
that seems like a super easy use case, right?
Yeah. It's a flywheel that can gain traction pretty quick.
Yeah. Yeah, I would imagine. How are you adapting to, how have the strategies changed from traditional SEO to now this AI SEO, GEO marketplace or market, I suppose?
Yeah, I think for a long, long time, it's changed. It's been different for a while, but I think this concept has been accelerated with the likes of LLMs becoming mainstream, is the concept of entities, right? So Google and the LLMs care less and less about your website itself, and they care more and more about how you're being spoken about and who's speaking about you
Mm,
across the entire corpus of the web. So yeah, we've kind of gone up the level in abstraction, and we're not caring so much about the website. The website is obviously still important, but it's a very different role. It's not an awareness driver as like it was maybe 2 years ago.
mm,
The role has changed. It's like the traffic that you do get, you now need to be like really clear on conversions and really trying to get them to convert there and then, as opposed to maybe educating them a little bit or nurturing them a little bit.
mhm.
They come to the website ready, they come to the website informed, they come willing to talk to you. So just make that super easy for them. Don't The education piece is largely solved for by the time they get to the website, and that's only going to become more and more the case in the future.
Mm. So you're saying the website is kind of like the last stop now, instead
Absolutely.
of maybe like the discovery or the educational phase. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, exactly that.
And then how does the content strategy reflect that? I mean, is there any changes in how you're thinking about content engineering for the new landscape?
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly leaning really heavily into that sales calls transcription
Mhm.
idea of analyzing that with something like Claude and then taking content ideas from that. So those types of content ideas you'll never get from an external tool. They only live in your first party data. So everyone who has the luxury of leaning into first party data should be doing that all day, every day, because that's where all the content ideas live. Obviously, there's no search volume for a lot of these things, but they are real customer pain points that real sales reps have seen and
Mm.
spoken about. So you know they exist, and that's kind of where we're leaning in. So yeah, top of funnel we kind of do offsite. It's more top of funnel now, and awareness is mainly social for us. And then yeah, addressing those real pain points that you'll only find in first party data is where the content ideas live now.
Hey, we hope you're enjoying the coffee and the conversation so far. This show is powered by Digital Web Solutions, and if you've ever wondered how the biggest brands actually build authority, this is it. DWS has a massive network of over 250,000 publishers, real sites that help you rank on Google, and more importantly, stay visible in AI search. It's the heavy lifting most teams just can't do on their own. As a thank you for listening, they're offering an exclusive free strategy call just for our eCoffee listeners. It's a great way to map out your authority plan for 2026. Just click the link below to book yours and see how they can help scale your brand. All right, now let's get back to the show.
Tell me more about first party data, because I think that with everything becoming commoditized in terms of execution and sometimes even strategy, I mean, obviously you need the experience and expertise and a POV to create like a sound content strategy, SEO strategy. But first party data is a moat that can't be swam across easily. So other than sales calls, I mean, how else are where else are you finding this?
I mean, being a financial services company, we are obviously really careful of our data, but we
Hmm.
do have a lot of data on an individual contact or company. So we're sitting on a vast amount of data, even for a single company. And that data is often a live feed to things like accounting platforms and bank accounts. So that data changes and evolves and grows as a business grows. So the
Mm,
content ideas are endlessly changing. It's not a static thing. It's not something you rinse through and it's kind of done and then you're
hmm
scratching your head. It's like the data is ever evolving. So it means there's content
mm,
ideas constantly coming out. Like we can do a report in 2025 and we can take the same idea and we can rinse and repeat it in 2026, but the data set will be much bigger and the companies will have changed. Like
mm,
if obviously COVID, sort of our business grew as COVID evolved and the businesses in our database evolved with it. So what we saw from year to year
mm.
changed significantly in terms of business profile, like how strong were businesses doing financially, what was their sentiment, what was their confidence like. We had all of this data. And it's really interesting to see how that first party data not only grows in volume, but changes and evolves.
I love that. I mean, for Swoop, you guys have different forms of funding. There's grants, there's loans, there's working capital, there's startup loans. These are all different products. I'm curious what you've seen in the business landscape as a whole based on, obviously just general trends. No need to divulge any personal information or anything like that, but like, yeah, what have you seen in terms of how people are thinking about starting and running their business just because of the nature of the industry that you're in?
Yeah, I think there's been periods where investment has dried up. Investors just weren't looking to deploy cash into young businesses for a period. Obviously, COVID impacted that as well. And then as you come out of periods like that, there's more capital in the market and investors are more willing to invest in businesses. So we've seen that evolve through the investment side. Again, during COVID, there was lots of government-backed cash flying around. So there was really cheap and easy cash to get, and that has obviously changed now that we're through all of that. What's another example? I mean, in the UK, there's a specific example where if you're a company investing heavily in R&D, there was a very good chance you could get tax credits to help you to encourage that, but that has changed a little bit. So there's not as much R&D tax credits flying around, and maybe they're moving into more sort of cheap lending. So things have changed. Things are always changing. I guess for a young business, certainly in the UK, there will always be a chance, I think, to get some sort of funding. And I know similar programs exist in the States. I think it's probably a little harder in terms of it takes a little longer to get, but there is certainly capital available in the UK for sure. For young businesses, I mean.
Definitely. I mean, I'm in Phoenix and I'm plugged into the startup community here, and I keep hearing the same thing over and over from these early founders is like there's very little early capital available for, let's say pre-revenue businesses. Like not a whole lot of people want to invest in ideas. How crazy is that? Like, yeah, okay, well,
Yeah, right.
whereas in Silicon Valley, maybe that's the big thing. They're betting on the jockey less than the horse. So it is interesting that you said that.
There's a crazy amount of capital floating around in Silicon Valley. It's terrifying. It's terrifying. Like, is there an AI bubble coming? I don't know. Maybe AI bubble bursting.
There's a bubble.
Is that gonna...
Outside of Swoop, as a business model, how do you think that SEOs should be reconsidering their role moving into the next 12 to 24 months, knowing that things are shifting, algorithms are updating all the time, metrics and what a win in SEO and search marketing looks like is different now than it was 12 months ago, and it will continue to change? How should we be thinking about our role in a company?
I think the only way to be thinking about it in the future is to be the orchestrator of the AI. Like an IC will be expected to do 10 times what they currently do now. And the only way to really win and potentially keep your job, because people will lose their jobs, there's no doubt, is to be the orchestrator of those AI workflows, agents, whatever it might be, however it looks in your org. Yeah, it's table stakes to be completely AI fluent now. And there's just no two ways about it. I think we're all feeling the AI fatigue, but I think we have to keep up. You have to stay on the bleeding edge. You have to be tinkering and playing and be curious, because if you lose that curiosity and that willingness to tinker, I think you very quickly will fall behind. So it is tiring, it is exhausting, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially agencies are just on the cutting edge of AI. I mean, it's disrupting agencies the most, and therefore maybe it's fear or, maybe it's the competitive edge. They have to stay on the tip of the spear basically. But as a global head of demand gen, like in your position as a revenue marketer, I'm sure you are hiring and expanding the team. You're scaling up, you're becoming a global a global company. What are you looking for? You mentioned curiosity, but what else are you looking for in new hires? And maybe what are the new roles that you're hiring for?
Yeah, I think the soft skills are going to be just so important, because largely the execution side will mostly be solved for. So the doing isn't the skill, it's the soft skills to have that initiative, have that curiosity, have that willingness to just muck in, as they'd say in the UK. Get your hands dirty, get in the weeds, and just play around. So yeah, but the soft skills are going to be the differentiator, I think. So being able to communicate, having humility, I think sometimes helps as well. And yeah, that initiative and that willingness to just get stuck in and just tinker. And in terms of roles that we're hiring for, I think, I mean, I've heard this term marketing engineer getting floated around recently, which I think makes, or growth engineer, some people are also calling it, which I think makes a lot of sense. And it's hiring someone who has the ability to connect all the dots and orchestrate all of those agents, all those workflows. I mean, I don't think that's where most companies aren't at that point now, but I don't think it's very far off.
Yeah, adding that engineering to the role that was talked about at the conference I was just at, and I forget who said it, but he was like, if we add engineering to the end of our role, we can command a higher price for what we charge. So I'm actually wearing one of the hats that says, yeah, content engineering department.
Hey, there you go. Yeah. So yeah,
Right?
we're on the same
Like,
page. Yeah, it's good to know.
yeah,
But I think it's true. You have to
yeah.
be. Like, there's just no two ways about it. AI fluency is just table stakes.
Hmm. Yeah, like the flywheel that you mentioned, how do we find out what people are searching for or what they're talking about on the sales calls, developing content to then, further them down the funnel or the buyer's journey, let's say. That requires a certain set of engineering or understanding the entire process, not just the front end, which traditionally was search, like the search part. Now there's a whole, you have to be almost full scope, not just full funnel, but like full buyer cycle understanding.
Yeah, hundred
Yeah.
percent, 100%. And I do feel for sort of juniors coming into maybe their first roles out of university. Like, how does someone who's fresh out of university know even where to start? It's really daunting for them. So I do feel for the younger generation just getting started in marketing, because it's a minefield for everyone. Even if
Yeah.
you've got the context and the experience, yeah, it's an interesting time.
It is because this is not just happening in marketing, it's happening, in all industries. Thinking of law firms too is another example that's top of mind for me, where you have all these junior positions, junior analysts, which are now taken over by AI. That's fine for now. You can increase your profit margins and everybody's happy, except for the new grads who are not able to get a job. But the higher ups are happy because they can take home a bigger paycheck. But what happens in 10 years where the succession, the growth of those junior level employees, there's no bottom layer. So now middle management and like senior executives, where are they going to come from? Do you have any thoughts
It's
on
a
that?
really good point. Yeah, I haven't really thought about that too much, because I'm just so thinking about today and this week, because it just changes so fast. But it's a very valid point. Like, where are those midweights and seniors going to come from in the future if the junior roles don't exist? Very good point.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what you were talking about in education, not just educating across departments, but maybe there's a play to educate the market. I mean, as a part of a hiring and expansion play, right? Like, hey, we're gonna,
Yeah,
I don't know, partner with universities or something like that, because like we
yeah, yeah.
expect you to be AI fluent, but you do have to have that experience and engineering perspective.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which I think was where the soft skills come in. So if the
Hmm.
next time I go to hire, it won't be about what they can actually do or what their resume is. It'll be like, do they have those soft skills to be adaptable and malleable?
Hmm.
Because that's all that's going to matter in the future. I think it's just a crazy time.
It is.
Crazy
It
time.
is. It's the Wild West. It's what's West Virginia? Well, you're not from the US, but each state has like a slogan, like a quote for the state. And I think West Virginia's is wild and wonderful. And I believe that's the time we're in
Amazing.
right now.
Yeah, we're all living in West Virginia for sure.
Yeah. I hope
It is
not.
exciting though. It is wild, but it is wonderful. It's a crazy time to be in, to think that these frontier models are going to find a cure for cancer. Like, imagine if that
Yeah.
happens. Like, it's an incredible time to be
Yeah.
alive.
Yeah. Yeah. Big cancer won't let it happen. We all know that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
that's another podcast.
That is another episode.
Last thing before we close out here, Jimmy, we just touched on kind of off page and off site with the digital PR, with the link building. Maybe I want to go into that just a little bit more before we jump off here. How are you doing? People said link building was dead in like the early 2000s. Is that something that you guys are leaning into? Are you organically building links? How does that work for Swoop?
Yeah, a bit of both. So it's something that we do internally, and we've got a bit of a process
Hmm.
for it. And I think, to be honest, at this point, I don't think we're too precious about where those links or those citations come from. I think at this
Hmm.
point, it's just about getting those brand mentions, and it's that consistency piece. So making sure that everything that is being said, no matter where it's being said, is consistent, in the hopes that the LLM will treat that as gospel and present that in their sentiment of us. So, and there's been a bit of sort of, as you know, as startups and scale ups evolve, there isn't too much governance around what's being said or where it's being said. So there's been a bit of a process of going back through maybe old press releases or old partnerships and old landing pages that might exist on other websites to try and rewrite that narrative and make sure that narrative is again consistent. So there's been a bit of a retrospective view of it, and then also the proactive stuff about going out and getting more links. And the thing we've seen the success is again the first party data. So just sitting on so much data means you can just tell such unique stories and interesting stories. So thinking in headlines, thinking what might get picked up by a journalist or by a publication, and working back from the headline, because we've pretty much got every data point on a business under the sun. So we're not limited by the data, we're just limited by our creativity. So once now that retro piece is done, we're thinking in headlines and what could get picked up.
Yeah, the brand mentions, the citations. It doesn't always have to be a do follow link.
No, not at all.
Like you said, AI is looking for clusters like semantic relevance and like how closely related are these topics. Even looking at a website, you have not just the page specific, but like the website as a whole. Is this website talking about the same thing over and over in different ways and still is semantically relevant? We're not talking about business lending and then talking about project management tools,
Totally.
on the same website.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we were guilty of that. We were sort of bolting on ancillary products and making our offering much more complex. But I do feel like as we did that, we diluted the initial sort of group of users who we were targeting, which was those looking for funding. That's ultimately what we do. And things like maybe insurance or something else is great, but it does dilute who you are and who you're for. So we did backtrack a little bit on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's a learning experience for everybody. Like you said, other departments, how they see SEO is kind of like this black box. I mean, let's be honest, a lot of it is a black box for us. Like the outside, we're like, trying our best, I guess.
Yeah, a bit of black magic. Yeah, it's a funny industry to be in, but it's a good one.
Yeah, so interesting. Jimmy, where can we find out more about you if the audience wants to reach out and connect with you? Where's the best place to do that?
Yeah, LinkedIn is basically the main platform that I'm on. So yeah, just search Jimmy Rippon. I'm there. Feel free to reach out. I'm always up for a chat.
Cool. Well, I love it. Thank you for your global perspective. Kudos to you for shifting from bigger businesses to scale ups now and becoming the global answer for business funding. Super cool chat.
Thanks, Austin. Really appreciate it. Take care.
Cheers.